Welcome to Fix and Fly, the business podcast, which identifies common business issues for you to watch out for in your day-to-day business life. So tune in every fortnight where we speak to leaders of corporates to SMEs where you can implement their strategies into your business. I'm your host, Larissa Logan from Fixity, where we help turn businesses around. Hi Steve, welcome to the Fix and Fly podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Can you please tell our listeners a little bit about your journey to owning one of New Zealand's top hair salons?
It's quite a journey. Went straight into hairdressing straight after school, and I started off at Civil's Academy, which at the time was the number one. I did 1 year at the academy, which was, was good. And then, like every young hairdresser, it was all about creativity. So I just threw myself at everything. I was doing photo shoots, magazine editorials, shows, seminars, just like non-stop. And then after, I can't remember, maybe 7 years of that, convinced Andrea to marry me and move overseas. So we went to London, again, just to try to fill that creativity. London being the kind of creative centre of hairdressing for the world, really. I had two great jobs there. I worked for a salon called Cabela, which was amazing. And they had just won Hairdresser of the Year, which is a massive deal in the UK. It's like massive cash cow, so you just got to ride it. It's like you literally become a celebrity hairdresser, TV shows, everything, product lines. So I did 4 years there, which was massive learning. And then I went to work with another guy called Aussie Rizzo. The coolest thing actually that happened there was on my first day, he pulled me aside and he said, "You've got children." And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, cool. If you need to go to see anything for school or whatever, don't worry about the clients, we'll move them. Clients can come another day, you won't see that again." And I thought that was fucking awesome because, it was all about the family. Yes, the business needs to be there, but I thought it was massive learning for me. He threw a lot at me. I became his creative director. So again, I was doing shows, seminars in Europe, fashion weeks, all that kind of stuff. And just so you understand, my wife at this stage was running the businesses. So she was running the businesses for these hairdressers that I was working for. So she's the business behind. She's not a hairdresser. And then the kids were getting older and it was time to, try to create some sort of work-life balance, I suppose, or create some sort of future for the kids and for the family. And so that was the reason why we came back to New Zealand. Coming straight back to New Zealand knowing that we're going to have to set up our own salon so that we can create a lifestyle for our family so we can raise our children and have them involved in it. So yeah, another 4 years just working for another salon in New Zealand until we managed to do it. And we opened ASC on Parnell Road.
Amazing. And that's nearly 10 years ago now. When's your 10th anniversary?
Next year.
Amazing.
It was 9 years this year. What was cool actually about building the salon is we brought everyone in. So like I said, you've got my wife and I. Our landlord is, she's actually my longest running client. I started doing her hair at 18 years old. The name project was done by my best friend Chris. The branding was done by Andrea's best friend Nicola. The billing was done by my mate Pete. So we just kind of pulled our community together and pulled all those favours from free haircuts and got it done.
That's awesome. And that's all built on trust, right? And it's using people around you to support you set up that business. Now, I have known you for a long time. I have seen a number of the challenges that you've kind of worked through as a business owner. Do you want to maybe talk through some of those challenges in the early days?
We've had some pretty big challenges. I like to say that if you've got business bingo, we're probably winning because we've already been sued. 2, we've been through a pandemic. And 3, we've had a fire. So, try to avoid them is the key. The first one sued was unfortunate. Our previous employer just had it in for us and threw up some bullshit allegations, which unfortunately we couldn't afford to fight regardless of winning or not. So we mediated our way out of that. And then the pandemic, well, everyone's been through that one. That was awful, but particularly hard for our industry. People used to always say to me, your industry will be fine because hair always grows. Well, that's fine. But if the government doesn't let your clients come into the salon, that's an issue. And then there's the fire, the last one, which was only a couple of months ago. And again, loads of learning from that. You've got to have good people around you. One, you've got to make sure you've got a good landlord to get through that one as well. But yeah.
So what level of impact does it have on a small business starting up when you have to have a large cash outlay?
Yeah, so hair salons typically run at a loss for 2 years. So you need to have enough cash in the bank to get through that. So then having that first hurdle, that made things a lot harder. It probably took us more like 3 years to start, stop losing money. But and then that's when we went straight into the pandemic, so that didn't help.
And then looking back just on that first challenge, is there anything you would have done differently around maybe advice, seeking additional advice or taking different steps, or are you happy with the decision you made?
So we actually did try to, we sought legal advice at first, and we had written agreement that what we were doing was okay, but as it turned out, the person who did this to us had planned this all along, so there's no way we could avoid it. And the unfortunate thing about the law is that the person with the most money wins. So we had an angel come in and save us in the end, which was awesome. It was someone we have a relationship with that came and helped us. But yeah, it was completely unavoidable, unfortunately.
And if we move on to the next challenge that you faced, the pandemic. You're a service-based industry. You're face-to-face. You had to very quickly overnight restructure your whole business. Do you want to talk through some of those steps that you took?
Everyone was worried about toilet paper going out. I was really worried about Fever Tree tonic going out. So first thing I did is I stockpiled Fever Tree tonic.
Which flavour?
Oh, it's plain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I actually literally took a photo of it to a friend, and he said, "How have you managed to make it to a supermarket?" And I was like, "This is not a supermarket. This is my garage. I have got enough Fever Tree and gin to get me through this." Didn't expect it to go on for 2 years, but initially I was like, "Okay, I've got this time. When do I ever get this time with my children?" My daughters were, off memory, probably 9 and 13 at the time. So I wrote down this plan. Sorry, this has nothing to do with business. This plan of how
this has everything to do with business because you're a family business.
Yeah. So how I could maximize this time that I could have with my family. So I treated it just like we treat a business, and I wrote down goals and action plans and then broke it down to weeks and how I was, completely nerdy way of doing it. But I'd wanted to use the time as best as I could to get family time out of it. But business-wise, that fell more on Andrea than me. She runs the kind of the nuts and bolts in the background. We had just literally 7 days before the pandemic sold our house. So fortunately it did give us a little bit of cash to help through it, but it's not, we want to be throwing money away either. But unfortunately our daughters were going to a private school, which is fantastic, but it's a massive outlay when you don't have an income. So that was an issue. But education's a really big thing for us, so I wouldn't have done that any other way either. With the team, it was just constant communication. We did video calls all the time. We did loads of video education to keep people engaged and keep people going. We did, because we do Friday drinks, we did the Friday drinks via video. We just did whatever we could to try to keep everyone engaged and keep everyone thinking about hair. We would do workshops online, anything, yeah.
And I think that taps into the culture that you've built up over nearly 10 years at the salon. How much effort goes into that?
Oh, yeah, it's heaps, it's constant. So, number one is you just got to have a really strong value system. Our values are at the core of every single decision we make. And then the staff have to understand that. So every year we start the year off with reviewing our values and reviewing the mission statements behind our values with the team. And it often changes, because as the years change, things change. But if they get full buy-in and they understand, then they will live and breathe it too. And then it follows through to every single thing you do, like the way you cut hair, the way you greet people, the way you serve drinks. Everything you do has to follow through.
How do you keep your staff on track around that value piece?
So we have a weekly meeting and we have a daily meeting. So the daily meeting is called the Hui, and the values are built into everything we do. The language that we use comes from the values, and each month we focus on a different value. And we just build it into the meetings, we build into the workshops and all that kind of stuff. That's probably the main way of doing it.
Yeah, and I think, wages will be one of your largest costs in the business. And I know personally, as an SME business owner, managing staff is hard, right? It's challenging getting the right people. When you find someone that's amazing, trying to hang on to them is always hard. I've seen a few people in your salon over the years that have, stood beside you over the years, which is great. So if we're moving on to the next challenge you talked about, the fire.
The fire. Yeah.
So talk us through that.
Yeah, so there's a power board in the hallway of the building. So fortunately it wasn't in the actual salon, but yeah, the smoke damage was enough to shut the salon down, and we had no power and blah, 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 blah. The most important thing we had was a fantastic landlord. He had his staff meet me while we're waiting outside for the fireman to finish. And we walked in the building, and one of the staff picks up the phone and is like, I need 2 builders, I need electricians, I need blah, 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 blah. And within, 2 hours, all of those people are on board. And they turned the salon around in, a matter of 5 working days, which is phenomenal considering how bad the damage was. So then you've got to communicate with all your suppliers and everyone like that just to make sure people understand. But people were really sympathetic. And then you find out who your neighbours really are. Like, loads of people came to see us. The guys over the road that owned a pub, they sent us an email saying, we'd like to invite you and the whole team out for a free lunch and stuff like that. So that's really cool.
That's amazing. And the key thing that I'm hearing over each one of these challenges that you've faced is communication, culture, and looking after your team. And that's kind of fundamental to how you are one of the outliers. So 73% of businesses fail by year 9. Okay, so 73% of businesses that started in the year you started your salon are now no longer here. So, the other 27% remaining are doing something right. And I would say that it comes down to a lot of your leadership and your management style and the way that you engage with your clients and your staff.
Yeah, but you've got to figure out where your deficiencies are, because there's no way you can cover everything within a business. So, like I said, Andrea does a lot of the back office. She deals with a lot of the clients and stuff like that. I'm doing more of maybe the team management and the creative stuff. But we really had an issue with the accounting side of things. So it took us a couple of years. We found that we've got a good accountant, which is great, and he helps us. But then we needed someone else. We needed like a mentor or something like that. And we did eventually find the right guy. And
How did you find your mentor?
Oh, it was all word of mouth.
Okay.
He's really cool. What he does really well is he keeps Andrea and I accountable because, when you're working in a business and you've got a family, we start the year out and we go, right, this is what we're going to do, X, Y, Z, break it down to each quarter. Halfway through the year, we're like, got kids doing this and this doing that, and we're just trying to hang everything together, and it all falls off the wayside. So he's awesome. We go in with a quarterly meeting and he's like, bam, what are you doing? And the funny thing is he'll give us the list of things to do for the quarter, and often we do it in the last 5 days before we meet him, but it doesn't matter so long as it gets done, right?
Yeah.
He's also really respectful with our money because we're not a big business. We're not making millions and millions of dollars. So he'll look at that and go, right, this is a better place to spend that money right now, and we'll look at doing that later. So he's really good. He's been really helpful.
Talking about dollars, so this industry in New Zealand is a $1.6 billion industry. There's over 6,000 salons and it employs over 13,000 staff. Does that sound about right to you?
I hadn't thought about it in a big picture like that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's quite crazy. 40% of the salons are actually in Auckland, so it must be such
40%?
40%. So it must be such a competitive landscape.
I suppose you've got 40% of the population in New Zealand though, don't you?
Yeah,
In Auckland,
that's right.
So I suppose it's about right.
And then just touching on the creativity piece, have you seen that kind of drop off in New Zealand with the hairdressing competitions that used to happen and all of that type of stuff?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a terrible evolution. So the hairdressing shows, which is where you used to get a lot of your creativity and a lot of your work from, used to be run by individuals and sponsored by product companies. And then the product companies were like, well, why are we paying individuals? We'll just run them ourselves. So then they ran them themselves. But now with the exit of all the product companies, like Wella head office, L'Oreal head office, there's nothing in New Zealand anymore. They're all run out of Australia. So they're not here. They're not doing anything.
So how do you keep the staff engaged? Because you don't start as a hairdresser, I would imagine, if you're not creative. You have some type of creative outlet. How do you,
Yeah. Good question. It's and unfortunately, creativity is expensive, which in this current climate, it's hard to find a budget for that kind of stuff. So you have to do it internally. Like we do internal workshops. We work with other salons, and then just doing stuff online. Maybe Fashion Week comes along and someone asks you to do the work for that. You just grab that opportunity, whatever you find to keep the staff engaged. Our industry is in a little bit of shit right now because, sorry. In the 90s, it was really trendy to be a hairdresser, and it was like cool to be a makeup artist, and the hairdressers were like cool people in town, but they're not now. It's not trendy to be a hairdresser at all. I don't know what it is trendy to be. So you've got to try to attract the staff. And the junior staff, so, you come out of school and you might go to an academy. Well, they're not inspiring environments anymore either. Their quality of education, they're just trying to pump numbers through. When the previous government had that first year free situation, they would just go into schools mopping up kids and just filling up seats. They didn't really want to be hairdressers. So we've got this issue there. And then we've got the apprenticeship scheme. Successive governments are trying to make a mess of that. So it's really hard to attract staff, is where I'm trying to get with that. So you've got to be really big on your education, and you've got to make sure everyone understands it. So you've got to be all over social media and just making sure it's out there in the public that you are educating your staff.
So I want to tap into one other area. You're working in a family business with your wife, your lovely wife, Andrea. When you're running your own business, it doesn't stop, when you put the scissors down or when Andrea turns the computer off. So what advice can you give other SME business owners about managing, working with your partner?
I was lucky for us because we've always worked together. So it's natural for us to be in the same environment. Where we did have a challenge, which was quite funny, was Andrea used to be my manager, and at one point I became her manager, and that was a little bit of a funny conflict. But because we have quite different roles within the salon, it's fine. I'm on the floor and she's front of house, or actually she's kind of everything. My job's really easy compared to hers. Pretty much I just cut hair. She's like the CEO, CFO, front of house, receptionist. Like she's everything. It's amazing. But home, it's impossible to switch off. You just, we'll at the dinner table or we'll be going for a walk and it just constantly comes up. Is it a bad thing? I don't know.
It's just life, right?
Yeah.
If you want to get into this game and have a family-run business, then that's just part of it, in my view.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. Like, it'd be interesting. I don't know what it's like to have a partner that's not in the same industry. So, but I don't know. What do you talk about? But it's just a great thing for us to talk about, and we're both so passionate about it. It's easy.
I'm assuming one of the high revenue streams for you will be products. Chemist Warehouse coming in. How has that impacted salons across New Zealand and revenue?
To be honest, the margins aren't great. So it's a small part of your business. When you're looking at figures in a salon, you try to aim for your retail to be 10%, but it's normally around 7 to 8%. At the moment, it's less because people are saving money and going for getting cheaper products, whether it's supermarket products or maybe getting deals online or stuff like that. With those Chemist Warehouse and all those guys, you just got to come back to your values. And, for example, the easiest one was Olaplex. We had Olaplex. It was a great product. And then Chemist Warehouse took it on and we can't beat them. So we just dropped it and moved on and found something better. So you just got to be super agile and ready to move and find something else.
I know you keep on having these challenges, and I think every New Zealand business does, right? But what I advise my clients is when they're getting to kind of this 10-year mark, they need to almost reinvent themselves a little bit to be able to, they might have a strong client base, but as new entrants into the market, they just need to be a little bit more, as you say, agile, be re-looking at their strategy, what's next? What's next for you? What do you look at? Technology, AI, is that going to impact Salon?
Just quickly on the 10-year mark thing, a really successful client of mine said to me once, he said, how's your business going? I said, it's good. And he said, right, never take your foot off the gas.
Yeah, that's right.
You never relax. You just can't. And so yeah, you can't. You've got to constantly work on things. And yeah, whether it is technology or anything, we're constantly looking out there. So because we've got this relationship with Greg, we share a lot of ideas there. We open our businesses up, whether it's figures and anything, to share with each other to try to help, progress. But yeah, technology is a big part. I think a lot of technology just can add to the bottom line though. So you've got to be careful that if you're taking something on, it's going to save you money or make you money, not just be another cost.
Yeah, well, one of the things that have changed, I guess, over the last few years is taking a deposit for clients to ensure that they don't cancel at the last minute, because it's very difficult to fill a cancellation, right? So,
yeah. So coming out of 2022, I think it was, and it was that Omicron, was it that variant of COVID, whatever it was? We had to have mass cancellations, and I think because of what we'd been through, people had got used to this idea that you could just cancel. So that was an issue. So we went through the data, and the majority of them were all online bookers, and they were all kind of 20 to 30-year-olds. So we changed our online booking system now, so you have to pay a deposit online. So, and that switched things up straight away. But you've got to be really careful in our industry. Like, again, talking to a friend of mine who's a physio, he will charge anyone penalty if they miss an appointment. Mm-hmm. But a physio's got like a maybe 10 appointment relationship. We try to have a 10, 20, 30-year relationship. So you've got to be really careful you don't mess that relationship up. So that's where it's great having Andrea, because she can be really sensitive and she can look at the individual and go, that person's genuine, or, But I think our rebooking rate's probably 80 to 85% when people leave the salon. So those people are always going to come back. You never have an issue there.
Yeah. The other thing that I've seen over the course of this discussion today is how important it is to have a great relationship with your landlord.
Yeah.
You've brought up your landlord multiple times. So what advice can you give to our listeners around managing that relationship and having discussions with them?
First, it's really important to find the right landlord. I hear this a lot. People look for cheap rents or, the right building or whatever. But if you've got a mum and dad operator landlord who's got loads of debt, and you go into COVID and then they can't afford to give you any help or relief, then you're in trouble. Again, with the fire, it's a perfect example. If my landlord had to wait for the insurance company to pay him, I'd still be out of a building, right? So you've got to look at their position and where they're at. Again, you want a landlord that's going to be looking after their building and constantly doing maintenance and stuff like that. Like I said, my landlord's actually my client, so we've got a great relationship. It's a bit different. But it is really, really important to ensure they're almost your business partner in a small business, because if your building goes to ruin, well,
where are you going to trade?
Exactly, and you're stuck in a lease. Yeah, when we signed the first lease, as I said, they're our friends and family, and it was so green, it was ridiculous. And they were like, "Oh, here's the lease." I was like, "Oh, it's great, looks amazing." Just sign this fucking thing, and I didn't even know what OPEX was. So we opened up, and we got this OPEX bill, and I was like, "What the fuck's this? It's not." Anyway, so yeah, maybe learn a little bit about that.
So, a couple of fun questions I want to ask you. Who is the most famous person that you've cut their hair?
When I came back from London, everyone asked that question, and I used to answer with Paul Weller, and everyone would look at me blankly, like, "Do you know who Paul Weller is?" He's a famous musician from the 70s and 80s. He's awesome. So then I'd follow up with the Olsen twins, and everyone knows who the Olsen twins are.
Oh, yes, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
The Olsen twins.
What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Oh, man, I don't know. Marry well. Yeah, like Andrea's the most important thing in my life and my business. So this is the one thing that I really got right. So what is it people say? Your marriage is your first wife is the most important financial decision you make in your life.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Great advice. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Fix and Fly podcast. Really appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you enjoy the Fix and Fly podcast, make sure you like, comment and subscribe, and share with anyone you think will find this useful. We look forward to seeing you next time.